My name is Sandra Rosenaw. I'm a Master Gardener with the Benton Franklin County Extension Service. This video series is Fairy Garden Startup, and our topic today is what you need to know about pots. This is a lovely decorative pot. It's about 7.5 inches, and it has enough room. You could put a couple of small plants in it and some fairy decorations, and it would be lovely. Only it's missing one critical thing, and if you see it at the bottom, there is no hole in the bottom for drainage. This is a really terrible problem. You cannot put a fairy garden into a pot with no drainage. What if you had Great Aunt Minnie's pot, an painted enamel pot that you wanted to use? You could find a similar pot in size, one that fits into the other one, put your fairy garden into it, and of course it would have to have a drainage hole. So when you watered it, you could put it in your sink or out in your deck and water it, and when it's done draining, you could put it in your decorative pot, and then your Great Aunt Minnie's pot would be a beautiful fairy garden for you. So drainage is the first essential. The second thing to keep in mind is your pot has to be a minimum of 4 inches in depth so that your plants have 4 inches of soil. This particular pot is just a little short. I bought it, it's a plastic pot. I bought it at a local nursery, and it was mainly for home decor. So I was able, however, to drill a drainage hole in the bottom, and then I put in my 4 inches of soil. So 4 inches of soil is a minimum. This clay pot is about 6 inches deep, so it's got the depth you need, and it's about 10 inches across. So this would make a lovely fairy garden. It does indeed have a good drainage hole. It's made of clay. A pot about 10 inches across would be sufficient for perhaps 6 small plants and a small fairy house or fairy castle. You don't want to crowd your plants too much, because realize that your plants are going to, in one season, double or even triple in size. So I prefer to underplant. That gives the plants room to grow. This pot is a clay pot, and in the Tri-Cities, clay pots do have an issue with our wind. So you might want to take a clay pot and put in some weight in the bottom to protect them from blowing over. Another thing about this pot, it's 13 inches across, and it's about 12 inches deep. So your plants only need about 6, maybe 8 inches at the most. And this pot is much deeper than that. You would be wasting your potting soil, actually, and potting soil does get expensive. So the solution that I can make a suggestion is to use styrofoam packing peanuts, the sort you get, and put it into a sturdy plastic bag. And then you can place this in the bottom of your pot to use up the space. Keep in mind, the bag itself could sag into the drainage hole. So before you place your plastic peanuts into your pot, you want to cover the hole with a rock of some sort, or something that will prevent the bag from sagging into the hole and plugging it. Now you place it. The water will drain around the bag and under the rock and out the drainage hole. You can fill it with 6 inches of soil, and you would have a lovely fairy garden. Another main difference thing that people ask is what is better, a clay pot or a plastic pot? Now you can see that some plastic pots, when you just look at them, it's really hard to tell that they're plastic. This one is, clearly. But the difference in using one kind versus the other is really how you live your life. If you're a person that would prepare their pot on Sunday, put it on the patio, and then there's a work emergency and your kids get sick and you don't even think about your pot until the following Saturday, when you realize it's been 105 degrees in the Tri-Cities. If that's you, you need to have a plastic pot because the plastic holds in the water. It means that your plants will have water longer and are more likely to survive. On the other hand, if you're a person that has great joy in watering their plants every day, you groom them carefully, you move them about on your patio, you watch the weather, and you monitor them daily, then a clay pot is the way to go. The water will evaporate, it will transpire out of the clay with our strong winds, our desiccating winds, and dry the pot out rapidly. So the more water, that's fine. If you water too much, it will evaporate off. So that's two things to keep in mind. Here's an example of a beautiful clay pot, but this one is glazed. The glazing will hold the water in as well. I did want to say on the issue of weight is that clay pots are heavy. If you're a person with carpal tunnel in your wrists, or the doctor says don't be lifting heavy objects, then you might want to go with a plastic pot. If you're a person that prefers the natural materials, you would probably prefer a clay pot. So those are the main differences until you get to the issue of price. Of course, a plastic pot is usually much less expensive than a terracotta or a glazed clay pot. However, I can say from experience that you don't have to spend a lot of money on pots. I have bought pots at the nursery for 50% off. You take your coupon, you watch the sales. Many of the garden centers and the nurseries will put their pots on sale late July, August, and into September. Watch for that. Another thing that you can do is when you see a garage sale, just pull over and ask quickly, do you have pots? This pot and this pot I got at a garage sale and for $2 a piece. The other thing you can do is use your, exercise your friends. You know, do a shout out and say, I'm looking for pots. I want big pots. I don't care if they're plastic. I don't care if they're clay. Don't care if they're broken. I just need pots. And do that several times because people aren't going to remember. But eventually someone will tell you, I have pots for you. They'll send you a text. Where do you want me to bring them? This pot here was a gift from a friend. She said, here, take it. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on pots. And if you've got 3 kids, you don't have to say, I can't afford it. Because there are many solutions, they just require planning ahead. So that's what you need to know about pots. Happy gardening and have a great day.